Good and wonderful evening, Oklahoma. Do I have some news for you guys? We are looking at what could potentially be our start of fall, kind of towards the Labor Day weekend. Granted, it is still far out, but models are starting to come into agreement with a much stronger cold front that eventually pushes that heat dome off to the east and gives the central U.S. a pretty big cool down over that Labor Day weekend. Now, you can see these blue to purple colors that are currently out here across the eastern part of the U.S. They got a huge cold front that came through. Y'all probably remember those days. About 2-ish weeks ago, it was anywhere from 85 degrees to about 90 degrees for probably 3-ish days. That was thanks to the eastern part of the U.S. getting cooled off. And it didn't cool us off for long, but it cooled us off enough that it was, it was rather refreshing there. And then, of course, like 4 days later, we had a feel like temperature of 120 in some places, which sucked. Now, granted, the next week to the next 2 weeks, rather hot. We're looking at heat indexes from 105 to 110 again. Eastern Oklahoma, we could see heat indexes 110 to 115. So we will definitely be keeping an eye out there. Excuse me. But over Labor Day weekend, we are watching the potential for a big cold front to come through. It'll really build up there in Canada, and then it'll blow its way through. It's gonna be a struggle with the heat dome. There's gonna be one cold front that will come through. That's kind of going to get bounced around by the heat dome. We're going to see what happens with it, but the most likely chance is that the first cold front is going to head back off to the east because of the heat dome. It's going to hit that heat dome. The heat dome's going to carry it to the east. But the second cold front could potentially be much, much stronger, being able to push that heat dome off to the east, giving us that nice nice cooler temperatures and what could potentially even be the start to fall. Granted, this year is what we call a transition year. We're transitioning into La Nina. That's why our tornado count was so much higher this year. We had a lot more days of severe weather. Much of the U.S. has had above average severe weather because it's our transition year. We are going from an El Nino to a La Nina, which hopefully should mean cooler temps for winter. Sometimes it can mean above average snowfall. It depends how far we get into La Nina before winter rolls around there. So looking at some of our forecast models here. So watch that red and the purple-ish, almost like salmon color. That's going to be your heat. And you can see right here, this cold front, it starts to build. You can see it's fighting the heat up to the north. And it kind of just gets pushed away and discouraged from that heat dome. That heat dome pushes it off to the east, and it almost just kills the cold front and turns it into more of a warm front. But watch Canada right up here, and you'll see colder temps start to build in. Eventually, it'll push it down, and we'll start. Let's see. It pushes it down here by the 31st. So it pushes it down here by the 31st. We can see September 1st for central Oklahoma, looking at a high of about 80. And I know what you're thinking, well, that's not a lot. That is that is our start to going downhill from there. So we're looking at central Oklahoma at about 80, northern Oklahoma at about 82, and southern Oklahoma 81. So it's definitely a start. It's a huge cool down there. And you can see it really starts to sink in as time goes on. And this is September 2nd. You can see parts of northern Kansas will be 75. We'll have central Kansas at about 74. And we'll have central Oklahoma 77. So all in all, supposedly cool down's coming, but most of us are the believe it when you see it. Like whenever you get a tornado warning on your phone, you're from Oklahoma, you're like, I'm gonna go outside and look. If I see it, I'll believe it. Don't do that. I don't recommend it. That's only storm chasers get to do that. But so all in all, we do get a much cooler pattern, and it looks like the most recent model run even pushes another rather large cold front down into the Central Plains. So we're really hoping that this could potentially be the start to fall. That's really what we're hoping for in this. Granted, your temperatures throughout the next few days, central, southern Oklahoma, most likely upper 90s to lower hundreds, with heat indexes going from 105 to 110. Northern Oklahoma, temperature-wise, about the same, mid 90s to lower hundreds, with heat indexes 105 to 110. And along with eastern Oklahoma, you're looking at mid 90s, lower hundreds. Heat index could go roughly to about, let's see, we'll put up over here. Your heat indexes could go about 110 to 115. So granted, relief is on the way, hopefully over your Labor Day weekend, but it's still far out. So it's still a little hard to tell, but models being in agreement this far out, pretty good. That's a good thing when our